Good evening, Mr. Nishio. We're very pleased to welcome you to Uzbekistan. It's a great honor to speak with you about World Bank's partnership with Uzbekistan. With your permission, I'd like to start our conversation from today's meeting and the discussion. Today you had a working meeting with the Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister of Economy and Finance of Uzbekistan, Mr. Kuchkarov, as well as roundtable discussions at the Ministry of Economy and the Finance dedicated to the cooperation between Uzbekistan and the World Bank. What key issues were discussed during these meetings?
First of all, let me thank the people of Uzbekistan for receiving me so warmly. It's been only maybe 12 hours since I landed in Tashkent, but I feel at home. And I had a very good meeting with the Deputy Prime Minister. We talked about how Uzbekistan can play a role model, can be a role model for other IDA countries. Now, there are 77 other IDA countries other than Uzbekistan, most of which are much poorer than Uzbekistan. And they are all striving to make lives better for their people. But here's a country, Uzbekistan, which has succeeded on that path. And with the Deputy Prime Minister, we talked about ways with which Uzbekistan can play a bigger role in this whole process of IDA. And just one word on IDA. It is the largest concessional pool of funds for the poor countries. It covers 3 years, and the latest replenishment, IDA 21, had a total amount of $100 billion. So it is very large, and Uzbekistan has been one of the largest recipients. But what's really striking about Uzbekistan is that it has used its IDA resources very well for the benefit of the country and its people.
Would you share any specific outcomes or agreements from those discussions?
Right. We didn't have any specific agreements, but I think we exchanged ideas about how this role can be played by Uzbekistan. For instance, through knowledge sharing, and that could be done in some kind of event. I don't know what that could be, but we do such events from time to time where we can showcase Uzbekistan's progress and how they made it possible. So we exchanged some ideas about that, and we promised to meet again soon. So this is an ongoing conversation, and I'm sure that something good will come out of it.
Thank you. And Uzbekistan is often seen as a strong example of how country can benefit from World Bank's IDA's support. And from your perspective, what key factors helped Uzbekistan achieve such a strong development, results? And what role did IDA play in this journey?
In my mind, the most important factor that made this possible was the strong sense of ownership by the Uzbekistan government. Now, when you have a development process and a reform process to go with it, the whole process must be owned by the country. If it is something that is imposed on the country, it will never succeed. And I think the interesting thing about Uzbekistan is that you have shown that you have ownership of the vision, the efforts for development, and that has been, I think, a critical factor that has tipped the scale in favor of Uzbekistan. IDA, I think, played a role by supporting the policy reforms. You know, IDA has done many things. It has projects in agriculture, education, health, all kinds of things. But I think if we were to point to one thing, I think it's the whole reform process where IDA did have a direct role in advising the government to make policy changes, to finance projects that implemented some of these reforms. So I think that is where IDA provided the most value added.
And what do you think, what makes Uzbekistan's experience unique compared to other IDA countries?
I think there are several unique dimensions of the Uzbek experience. One is the successful transition, from the command and control economy to that of a market-based economy. Second is the focus on some key priority issues. So I think another key dimension of Uzbekistan is that it's a big country, it's a big program, but we always manage to focus on the key priorities. For instance, on education, where we focused on early childhood education. I'm going to see a project in Samarkand for that. Also on issues like energy efficiency, where I'm going to be looking at a district heating project tomorrow outside Tashkent. So I think the whole approach to focus on some key issues rather than to disperse the attention and effort across many different things, I think that has been a key element of Uzbekistan's success. And maybe the third and last thing in my mind is how you have facilitated a more market-based economy. This relates to the first one. But I think the way you have reformed your state-owned enterprises and you have made the whole economy more responsive to market signals through prices, that is a very difficult process, but you have made great strides in this. And I think it's something that many countries can learn from.
From us, thank you. And looking back since Uzbekistan's independence, how has a strategic partnership with IDA evolved? You may also highlight one or two projects that you consider is milestone in this partnership.
Right. I think the partnership with IDA has evolved quite significantly over time. And perhaps the first turning point was maybe a little bit more than 10 years ago, when Uzbekistan became what we call a blend country, meaning Uzbekistan receives funding not only from IDA, but another arm of the World Bank, which is called IBRD. And that is a pool of funds for middle-income countries. At that point, more than 10 years ago, Uzbekistan was assessed to be creditworthy to receive IBRD funding. Now, IBRD is provided at market terms. So when it was determined to be creditworthy, Uzbekistan was able to borrow from both IBRD and IDA. And that significantly ramped up the scale of the program in Uzbekistan. So that was, I think, a very important turning point. And I think another turning point is much more recent. Just a few years ago, Uzbekistan embarked on this bold program of reforms. And there we created a country program for Uzbekistan, which is tailor-made for Uzbekistan, and which really focuses on the reform needs of Uzbekistan, not only through financing, but also through knowledge, because we have helped many countries go through the transition, through policy reforms, and at that point in time, the whole tenor of IDA's assistance to Uzbekistan changed more towards something that is both financing and knowledge. So it has gone through such major transformations, and I think through all these processes, the relationship between IDA and Uzbekistan has become even stronger. And
which sector, in your opinion, have benefited the most in Uzbekistan from IDA support?
I think I can think of a couple of sectors. One is in sectors like agriculture and transport, where IDA was able to generate jobs. And I believe Uzbekistan has a large number of young people entering the labor market every year. So to generate jobs for them, and also for jobs for people who don't have formal jobs, is very important. Through these projects, I think we were able to create jobs, create employment, create income. And what jobs does is that it provides not only income, but it also serves as a source of pride and self-respect. So I think that was quite significant. Maybe another area where I think the IDES program has been quite impactful has been in the area of agriculture and water. And this is because we were able to work with the Uzbek government, particularly in the region of Karakoram, Pakistan, where we were able to modernize a network of canals extending more than 800 kilometers to increase the efficiency of water use and also make the agricultural system more efficient in terms of water use. So that not only raised the productivity of agriculture, but also enabled the region to better conserve water and have the capacity, save this capacity to use it for other purposes.
And as you mentioned before, over the years, Uzbekistan has gone through a major transition in its development path. And what do you think have been the biggest, maybe say, turning point or maybe reforms that shaped the progress? And how has the World Bank supported them in this way?
Right. So I touched upon it a little earlier, but I think when Uzbekistan started on the reforms, I think around 2018 or so, when you embarked on taking some decisive steps towards a market economy. That was, I think, a major turning point, because at that point you made changes in your policies which enabled more private capital to stream into the economy and more resources to be used efficiently in line with the market signals. You know, so using the price mechanisms, using more transparent, open processes to capitalize on competition, then the efficiencies to be gained from competition. The whole process of modernizing the economy for Uzbekistan started at that point. And what the World Bank did was, the World Bank typically provides financing, which, you know, we are a bank, so we do finance projects, many projects, but we are also an advisor to the government in terms of what policy changes need to be made. We call that policy dialogue, and we have that for each country. And through a series of studies and workshops and other things, we were able to make recommendations to the government, which I think contributed to the design and implementation of the reforms.
And what challenges still remain on this path?
You know, I think there are still challenges in terms of taking the transition further. You know, so to have more of a market-based economy in Uzbekistan, and that includes, for instance, getting more direct foreign investment into Uzbekistan. I think right now it is rather limited to a few sectors, but given the relatively large size of the economy, you know, I think it would be good to try to encourage more private capital to come in. So that's one area. Another challenge area, I think, is regional integration. And, you know, because Uzbekistan is a double landlocked country, and, you know, it has issues in terms of, you know, getting your exports out of Uzbekistan. You have to rely on roads, and, you know, this could be time consuming and expensive. But to make Uzbekistan better connected with the rest of Central Asia, but also with South Asia, which is the neighboring region, also with the Middle East, you know, to become a kind of a hub for regional economic integration, I think would make Uzbekistan an even more important economic player. And I think the economic growth in Uzbekistan will be greatly enhanced through that.
Building human capital is heart of the development. And how have IDA and the World Bank's other program helped strengthen Uzbekistan's future through better education or healthcare or social protection?
Right. So, as I mentioned, we will be seeing an early childhood project in Samarkand. And I have seen some early childhood projects in India and elsewhere. I think early childhood education is extremely important because it's at that point in a human's life when your brain nervous system is growing very fast. And if you don't give the young children enough, not only enough learning, enough stimulus to the brain, you also need to nourish them with good food, nutritious food, to make sure that your brain develops to the fullest. And once you miss that chance in the first few years of your life, it is impossible to catch up. Your nervous system cannot catch up with the lag that you have if you don't make a good start. So from that point of view, early childhood education very important. I'm glad that we are helping Uzbekistan do this. So that's one important thing. I am not so familiar with what the World Bank did in health, but I know that during COVID, the World Bank did help the government of Uzbekistan deal with the COVID crisis. And the World Bank can bring to the table on something like health, establishing a system to deal with such pandemics in future, any health crisis in the future. It's very important that you have a robust, well-functioning health system in order to deal with these crises. And we do that in just about all the countries where you work on. And we did our best to help Uzbekistan in that regard as well.
The question is, how does the World Bank actually measures success in building human capital?
Yeah, so I think perhaps the most important thing is there is something called the Human Capital Project. And there is a special dedicated website on the World Bank homepage, which was devised, I believe, around 2017, 2018, when the World Bank started to look at the human development level of each country based on, I think, three very basic indicators. One was learning. Another one was stunting in terms of your weight compared to your age, and the other one was something to do with health. So using these three indicators, we were able to rank countries through what we call the Human Capital Index. So this is a composite indicator which draws on these 3 or 4 different indicators in different sectors. And every year we update the numbers, and it's very interesting to see how the countries compare. And in many cases, you have countries which people thought were very advanced in terms of human capital development, were not actually that well developed when you look at it through these indicators. So that, I think, has been a very powerful tool, and anyone who's interested, I would recommend going to the World Bank website, going to the Human Capital Project website to look at what the World Bank monitors.
As you said, the world is changing fast with its challenges like climate change, pandemic, and the overlapping crisis. How is the World Bank and the IDA is in particular adapting its approach to meet these challenges? And what does this mean for a country like Uzbekistan, which aims to reach middle income status?
Right. So I think you are completely right that the challenges of today are very different from what they were years before, especially in terms of having these big problems which transcend country boundaries. And climate change is a classic example. but you also have the pandemics. You also have what we call fragility. You also have food insecurity. These things transcend country boundaries. And the question is how we help these countries overcome within their own boundaries, and also try to help those countries that are in the same neighborhood to exert any positive influence on those countries. So we have created some mechanisms to help countries achieve that goal. One is through IDA, and IDA has a window. As a window, we call it. It's a special provision, a special part of the IDA 21 package, which we have set aside to finance projects that have regional or global benefits. And that includes climate change and food insecurity and those kinds of issues. So that we have started to do under IDA 21. Also in IBRD, which is for the middle-income countries, we have started on what we call the framework for financial incentives. And what it does is it provides incentives for middle-income countries to borrow from IBRD to address these cross-border issues. Again, it's things like climate change and fragility. And we have a system whereby we use 3 specific types of incentives. One is providing small grants. Another one is to lengthen the tenor, the repayment period of the loan. And the third one is to give more volume, a bigger amount of loan. So through that incentives structure, we have been able to work with the recipient governments of IBRD countries, middle-income countries, to construct a program which has been growing and which has already produced 5 or 6 projects that have been approved by the board. And these are projects in renewable energy, pandemic preparedness, protection of nature, those kinds of projects. And I think that is a very novel thing in the middle-income country world, and we are really looking forward to scale that up. Now, your final question about how can Uzbekistan benefit from this? Uzbekistan, because it is a blend country, meaning Uzbekistan can access both IDA and IBRD, I think Uzbekistan should try to come up with good proposals for both the IDA grow window or the IBRD FFI. So Uzbekistan is in a very good position to draw on these 2 novel mechanisms to deal with the new challenges in the world.
Thank you. I know you have a very busy schedule. Looking ahead, what gives you optimism about Uzbekistan's development journey?
This is something that I want to have a better feel with my own eyes. But what I do sense in a very, very short time that I have been in Uzbekistan is that I think people seem confident. People seem reasonably happy. People seem to be looking forward. People are very hospitable and accommodating. I think these are all good signs that the country is moving in the right direction. I was at the bazaar today, the market, and I could see people selling and buying. And I see that there is this a certain degree of middle-income, people having the resources to now buy these things, and so I could sense a good collective progress in the economy. And if Uzbekistan can continue on this path, continue to reform, continue to do good projects, I think Uzbekistan will go very far. So that gives me optimism.
Thank you. Mr. Nishio, thank you very much for your time and your insights. It was a great pleasure to speak with you, and we would look forward to continue stronger cooperation between Uzbekistan and the World Bank. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.